I always try to make videos that I want to make, not necessarily what will be the most popular. But I've wanted to make a video about my favorite feats in Dungeons & Dragons for a while, and it turns out Tulok feat picks is one of the most common search results in the Google algorithm, and I haven't even made the video yet. So let's talk about my top 10 favorite feats in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. And if you're here for the other kind of feat picks, stick around anyway, sinners.
What do you call them? Oh, feet.
Now I'm going to be focusing on my personal favorite feats, not necessarily the group consensus on what's the most popular or the best. But if your favorite feat doesn't make the list, I have a longer version of this video on my Patreon with 5 additional feats. There you'll also get access to monthly schedule updates, you'll get to vote in the polls for the characters you want to see next, you'll get character sheets from building character, and exclusive videos. It's a pretty sweet deal. Consider going over there and subscribing.
Lady Luck!
If you're not lucky enough to join the Patreon, this is our first feat. It's the lucky feat. And some people think it's so busted it needs to get kicked out of the game. I disagree. It gives you 3 luck die you can use to reroll an ability check, saving throw, or attack roll, or give your enemies disadvantage to hit you. It's pretty flexible, but you only have 3 per long rest. It's not gonna totally change the flow of the game.
Snake eyes! Snake eyes?
Oh no! Sure, it makes you a little bit safer, but you've only got 3 per day, which creates this psychological block that stops you from using them. Sure, you could use it to pass the dexterity saving throw, but what if you need to sneak into the enemy camp later and you want to use it on a stealth check? A lot of times I think that players who have luck die end up not using them because they're too afraid they're gonna need it later. So if you get the lucky feat, use your luck die. It's a great feat for new players who want to tiptoe into the role-playing game arena, but don't want to feel like they're just failing right out the gate. If you're one of those gamers who likes opportunity attacks, boy have I got a feat for you. It's called Sentinel, and it's the bee's knees. It lets you ignore other creatures' disengagement option, so you can just hit them with an opportunity attack anyway. Also, if someone hits a buddy within 5 feet of you, you get to smack them. Also, if you smack someone with an opportunity attack, their speed is set to 0, so they've got to try and disengage again. Oh, whoops! They can't disengage, because you have a feat that stops them from doing that.
Hey, Freak Show! You're going nowhere!
This is great on a martial character with a bunch of HP and a good melee weapon to hold people in and stop them from leaving. Particularly if you had a feat like, I don't know, Great Weapon Master. Yeah, this is a really fun one. -5 modifier to your attack roll for +10 to the damage. Risk, reward, it's all that sweet chaos energy you love. And it lets you hit like a frickin' Mack truck. If you get a critical hit or reduce someone to 0 HP, which is something you're gonna do a lot, you can make another attack as a bonus action that also adds this damage. And if you got the Sentinel feat and people are trying to run away from you because you got a +15 damage modifier, you get to hit them with that on an opportunity attack. It's just frickin' swell. This is another one of those situational feats, but if you use it right, it's pretty dang great. Having a mount is a fantastic way to boost your character's mobility, but most mounts have such a small health pool. What's a gamer to do? Well, with a mounted combatant feat, you can take hits for your mount, and your mount takes half damage on a failed dexterity save and no damage on a successful one. That's the evasion ability, which is something rogues and monks get at level 7. It's a free 7th level ability for your mount that you can take at level 1. All that's great, but you also have advantage on melee attacks against creatures that are smaller than your mount. So if you're riding a horse, which is a large-sized creature, medium creatures, free advantage. Very fun. But the best part about this feat is that it's not for a specific mount, just for you, the specific rider. So if you're playing a small-sized creature, you could mount up on any medium-sized creature that's willing to be ridden, like most of the humanoids. So you could play a stout halfling bear totem barbarian, resist all but psychic damage, take hits while you ride on top of a Goliath sorcerer. It's 2 uncharacteristic race class combinations that are going to pair so well together because guess what? That sorcerer can't get hit. You're the one getting hit, and you resist all the damage, and you get free advantage because you're riding on top of a big boy. This is what you should do in all of your games. I don't make the rules, I just enforce them.
Don't try to compare us to another bad little fad on the Mac, and I'm bad. Give me something
Now, you might be using hammers as your halfling while you're riding on top of your Goliath buddy, and I am a fan of hammers, but I'm an even bigger fan of fanning hammers. That's why I like the Crossbow Expert feat, because it lets you fire a hand crossbow as a bonus action when you make an attack with one as your action. That lets you make 2 attacks at level 1 with a hand crossbow if you take a feat at the first level. You also get to ignore the loading property of crossbows, which means that you can fire multiple shots in one round, and you can fire within 5 feet of yourself without disadvantage. It takes every negative piece of the crossbow, gets rid of it, and gives you an extra attack every round. It's pretty fantastic. I suppose I should also talk about the Gunner feat, because that's basically this feat, except instead of that bonus action attack, you get proficiency with guns, and you get +1 to your dexterity. Now, I like rounding up stats, that's great, but getting an extra attack is just a lot better. I don't know if your DM has guns in their settings. Here's why having an extra attack is better with the Crossbow Expert feat though, because you can pair it with the Sharpshooter feat. This is great Weapon Master for ranged weapons. It lets you take a -5 penalty to your attack roll to add 10 to the damage roll of an attack with a ranged weapon. Pay attention to that. I got another video coming out that's gonna get fun with that. Unlike Great Weapon Master though, the extra pieces of this feat make it extra savory, because they let you fire at maximum range without disadvantage and ignore up to 3/4 cover. So if you find a way to get your character a flying speed, you can shoot straight up and then shoot down at people from 500 feet away without disadvantage, with that huge damage boost. It honestly kind of makes Eldritch Knight a better Arcane Archer than Arcane Archer, because Arcane Archer can't fly and Eldritch Knights eventually can, and then they can shoot, 3 to 4 arrows down. Or if they're using the hand crossbow and fanning that little hammer, yeah, that's like 4 to 5 attacks per round. Action Surge, it's bananas.
I talked to the expert, so I know who's asked to kick.
But enough about fighting. What if you wanted to do some role-playing in your role-playing game? Well, then the Skill Expert feat is for you. It's +1 to an ability score, a free ability, and expertise in an ability, doubling your proficiency bonus with checks to that skill. In my experience, most characters tend to have an odd-numbered stat that they would like to have rounded up.
I hate you.
Yeah, well, I'm not too crazy about you either.
Also, you do want to be an expert in whatever roleplay arena your character is supposed to be. If you want to be the muscle, you want big athletics. If you want to be the sneaky sneak boy, you want stealth. If you want to be the face, you want persuasion, etc. There is also a combat use for it, because if you choose expertise in athletics, that means that you have expertise with your grapple checks, which makes this a better grappling feat than the grappler feat. The grappler feat's bad. Maybe I'll talk about stinky feats in another video, and I'll talk about why grappler is not very good. Spoilers, part of it is that the skill expert feat exists. But you know what my favorite thing to be an expert in is? Moving! Grab the mobile feat. That lets you add 10 feet to your movement speed. Already very fun. But the best part is you can ignore opportunity attacks if you attempt to make a melee attack. You don't even have to hit. You can just go up, try and punch someone, and then they don't get to make an opportunity attack against you. That isn't disengagement, so this even trumps the Sentinel feat. Pair this with unarmored movement from Monk or haste from a casting class, and you can dart in and out like your Sonic McFrickin' Hedgehog. You can also ignore difficult terrain while dashing. That part's a little underwhelming.
I look deep into your heart and soul. You do have a soul, don't you, Lawrence?
My second favorite feat is Eldritch Adept, and it fittingly gives you something you normally can't get until the 2nd level. That lets you pick any of the invocations from the Warlock list that you fit the prerequisites for. Now that does put a damper on some things. A lot of them require you to have Eldritch Blast or be a certain level in Warlock, but at level 1, there are some great options. Mask of Many Faces lets you cast Disguise Self at will, which changes not only your appearance, but your clothing, which makes it a better changeling than the changeling. Beast Speech lets you cast Speak with Animals at will to talk to animals whenever you want. Detect Magic lets you sense magical auras, and you can always tell your DM you have it, and Devil's Sight is an even better thing to tell your DM you always have, because it is supercharged dark vision that works even in advanced darkness.
This isn't your average everyday darkness. This is advanced darkness.
The flexibility is so fantastic. Not to mention, if you grab it on a Warlock, you can grab some of those higher level invocations, some of which are fully busted, and it could help you get some more power for your Eldritch Blast. I mean, come on, you want those Eldritch Blast invocations, don't you? But the best option for your feats is to let a Fey touch them with the Fey Touched Feet.
There's got to be a better way to say that.
That rounds up one of your soft stats: intelligence, wisdom, charisma, something y'all know that I love. It also gives you the Misty Step spell once per day for free. That lets you teleport 30 feet as a bonus action. It's a 2nd level spell you can get a level 1. That's pretty silly. You can even cast it later if you're a spellcaster that gets more spell slots, so it's much better than the Magic Initiate feat, which doesn't let you do that. It gives you 1 first level spell and says that's all you can do. Power creep's fun. But maybe the best part of this feat is the 1st level spell of your choice that you can cast from any spell list, as long as it's divination or enchantment. There are so many fantastic options. We've got comprehend languages, detect magic, gift of alacrity, identify, speak with animals, bane, bless, animal friendship, charm person, compelled duel, heroism, Tasha's hideous laughter, silvery barbs, or sleep. Plus the skill buff, plus Misty Step. But I left off the 2 best spells you can take: Hunter's Mark and Hex. Both of those add an extra d6 of damage to your attacks against one creature for up to an hour. If you drop that creature to 0, you can move it to another creature. So if you're playing a martial character, that's just an extra d6 damage die. If you're playing a spellcaster with Hex, you can add the d6 to spell attack rolls as well.
That's a lot of damage!
Hex is just kind of the better option of the 2, since it also gives creatures disadvantage on an ability check of a certain type. You can make them scrawny, you can make them stupid. It's pretty fun. But if you put it on a martial character that's going to be making a bunch of attacks, that's an extra d6 of damage. If you're using a scimitar as a fighter, you doubled your damage. It's basically like you're rolling a crit on every hit, with the understanding that you could still roll a crit and double both of those die. Pretty much any character could benefit from having a Fey touch their little feet.
Nothing wrong with that.
So, did you like those feat picks? Were there some feats you were expecting to see but didn't? Maybe you should join my Patreon, where you'll get 5 more feats. Because there's more feats, that video gets a little too hot for YouTube. Maybe I'm talking about D&D feats, maybe I'm talking about the other kind. Sitter, I'm not.